Welcome to the table.
We're your hosts, Michelle and Laura.
This is where we talk movies, food, and the ways that they bring us together. Grab a seat. This episode starts now.
We are back for our third episode of our Valentine's Day series, and we are joined by first-time guest on the pod, Brittany. Brittany, I especially picked this movie for you because you've talked about it so much. And just to talk about my background with About Time, I thought that I saw this movie, and then I started to watch it last night, and in true fashion, I fell asleep, and I watched it a little bit more this morning, and I was like, I've never seen this movie. So what is your history with this movie?
It came out in 2013, so I definitely saw it when I was in college. And I think at the time I went all over my head. I think I was so focused on the story between Rachel and Domhnall, their love story. But watching it again this time around, I was like, wow, this is actually like a beautiful story about the love between a father and son. So it was just really interesting, the completely different take that I had on it, watching it as like a more fully formed adult.
It just has so many good life lessons in times of darkness. Like, this is the light movie that we need right now. So I was like, I feel like I watched it on the perfect day. Michelle, what about you? Was this your first time?
This was absolutely my first time. Everything that I thought I knew about this movie, which was very little, was very wrong. I think when we were trying to come up with a list for this season and we had kind of landed on this concept of love and time, Laura, you brought this movie up, and we were getting it confused with the movie Leap Year. I'm like, I think it may be, and I think that I have seen Leap Year. So I was expecting this to be a generic romantic comedy that's like very cookie cutter and like all the other ones. Wow, was I wrong in the best way. I mean, I didn't even know what the concept of this movie is, like the whole time travel aspect of it. So once that was introduced, and I thought that this was very much a romantic love story, which it is in there, but that's definitely not like the bigger picture. I started to get so much anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, I know where this is. Like, they're going to meet. He's going to find it the next day after they meet. She's going to die. And then the whole rest of this movie is going to be him trying to prevent this death and not being able to, and him having to live with it. And like, I let myself go on for probably about a half hour. And then I'm like, I have to look it up. I have to look it up because because if I'm wrong, I want to be able to enjoy this watching experience. And if I'm right, I rather just read about it and be mentally prepared than to have to just, be ready to sob. So I did spoil myself about halfway through the movie. Of course, ultimately, the first thing I think all of us said kind of like before we hit record was that this movie has such an emotional ending to it. But I don't want to say someone's death is happy, but there's just so much goodness and hope.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of movie that I want to watch once a year because it's going to make me remember how to live my life through this lens of just appreciating all of the good things in our lives.
Yeah.
I actually had just thought that this movie would be such a good side-by-side with It's a Wonderful Life, because Brittany, we had Matt Fiegelman on for that. It's like his favorite movie, and he watches it at the end of every year, and I feel like both of those are such a good remember, just take a minute. And I did have this moment. I was like walking Baxter after I watched the movie, and it was like there was like a beautiful sunset, and I was like, oh my God, it's like 3 degrees, but I was like appreciate the moment, like even though there's a ton of snow. It was needed. I feel like we've already said so many things about what we love, but Michelle, I want to hear from you since this is your first time. What are some things that you love about this movie?
All right, this may be a weird place to start, but I was thinking about the magical realism when it comes to time travel movies, and I think we've all seen many of them, and Our audience knows how much Back to the Future means to me. It's one of my favorite movies. I think that the way that they use time travel in this movie is so simple
Mhm.
and not overused. I mean, it really could just be explained in a sentence. And even though there's like a tiny part of me that's annoyed by the fact that only the men in this family are able to
Yeah.
officially do the time travel, although we find out later on that Kit Kat, his sister, can go with him if they're together.
Yeah.
Yeah, has to be
Um,
brought by a man.
Yeah, she needs a
Wow.
chaperone. You don't
yeah.
need a mansplaining time traveling to me, okay?
But putting that aside, I really liked this idea that Tim didn't really ever abuse using the time travel. Like, I
Mm,
feel like he really used it kind of sparingly. Every once in a while, he would do something that's a little not completely necessary and that was a little self serving. But I felt like the way that both he and then what we learned of his dad and the way that he used it made me think that whoever this power is that bestowed this upon their family specifically kind of knew that they were the kind of guys who would be able to handle this power
mm,
responsibly. In the beginning, we learn a little bit from the dad that he stopped working in his 50s. And Tim is describing, like, yeah, all he really does is like he reads a lot and they play table tennis, ping pong against each other. And we get this reveal at the end of the movie that the reason that his dad retired early, oh my God, I'm going to start crying already,
oh,
I know,
was
I
just so they could play ping pong together.
I know.
For as soon as like I think that is when he said that he found out that he was sick.
Yeah,
So first move he made was to retire so that he could spend as much time with his son as possible, like doing this very just fun, simple
yeah,
activity that they both loved. I was just like, everything that's beautiful about this movie can be like brought down to like that one small decision.
yeah, yeah,
something that is so everyone talks about it in real life over and over and over again of like things go by so fast, like make sure that you're spending time with your family and your loved ones, because
mhm,
one day you wake up and you're 60 and then you get sick and then things happen. So I feel like that was such like a human decision to include that in
yeah,
the script, and like such a very simple nod, like he almost kind of said it in passing in the end. It wasn't this like big reveal
yeah,
moment, which I felt like made it even that much more powerful. Because when I heard that too, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, I
yeah.
can't believe he did that.
Yeah, I think this movie did such a great job to use the word you used, Laura. It's like there were such simple human moments. What he says to his son, you that could easily go over your head and you may not even hear that. Like I think they handled that so beautifully and like so thoughtfully that it felt so relatable. You're like, "Oh yeah, that does it feels like something that, my father would say to me." They just handled that with such care, which I just thought was so effortlessly done. That was just really
Yeah.
really impactful.
One kind of like overall through line that I noticed with this movie, I don't work in the movie industry, so, but I understand like the amount of humans and all the things that really have to go right for a movie to be considered like well liked and well respected.
Mm,
And I do believe that this was one of those combinations where like the script was well written and the actors did a really good job of executing it, because like I actually didn't realize Zoe Deschanel was supposed to be Rachel McAdams' character. Not that I don't like Zoe Deschanel, but I
yeah.
just like don't see it
Yeah.
working well. So I think it's sometimes, I think I was saying this a lot in our last episode, Michelle, but like the word cosmic, like there were all these like beautiful things that really made this movie flow. There were very few parts where it felt like a line was said that was like trying to preach or explain. Like it really almost felt like we were looking in the windows of someone's home and like just
Mm,
conversations that could actually be happening in real life. Kind of felt like we were on the ride like throughout Tim's life. We meet him when he's 21 and by the end he has 3 children. So sometimes squeezing all of that in a movie can feel a little bit too overindulgent, but
yeah.
it was just felt like this wave the whole time I was watching this movie.
It's such a testament to the actors too, because Domhnall, I think he is just such a fantastic actor because some of the things he was doing were borderline creepy. I was like,
Yeah.
brother, calm down. But he is so like, he has such like a wonderful balance of like charming and quirky so that you're like, okay, I'll let it slide here. I did not know that Zoe Deschanel was supposed to or was up for the role of Rachel McAdams. And I think if it was Domhnall and Zoe, it would have been too much like quirky, awkward personality types, and it just wouldn't have that beautiful flow that it did have. And the script was obviously really beautiful, but I think that the actors really elevated it, and it was just something that was just so that just worked really, really well. And I mean, Rachel, I think, is also such an underrated actress. Also, I loved in the film how they were trying to make her look a little like ordinary and kind of frumpy. And I'm like, impossible. This woman is drop dead gorgeous. No, literally, she's like, sorry, these bangs are crazy. I'm like, you make bangs look stunning. I'm like, I'm about to chop bangs myself. Like, she was perfect.
I know.
She's perfect.
I know.
She compared herself to, I don't know, was it a mouse or some kind of, you know?
No, she said she looked like a squirrel. I was like, okay, squirrels are beautiful. It's her acting style, and Britt, you know better than all of us, but like it feels so real. Strong is the wrong word, but just very like sure of herself. She even has this line where she's talking to Tim's mom and she says like, I'm very insecure. And I'm like, it does not show. But because she was this kind of decisive person, he's a little bit more quirky and awkward, like this blend just brought this beautiful organic chemistry of two people who just fell in love with each other.
And I think her saying that to Tim's mom was reflective of her. She's self-assured in knowing her flaws.
Yes.
It's almost like she's comfortable with being insecure.
Rachel really brought Mary to life. It could have fallen flat if it had been cast as not her.
When her parents are coming over and meeting Tim for the first time, and she's like all flustered, and he's like, okay, like what should I say? She's like, I don't know, like tell them anything, like just like don't tell them that like we have oral sex or something. And like she's talking to the parents and she keeps answering all of the questions for him. And then the mom goes, oh, like, does he answer any questions for himself? And she's like, yes, he does. I'm sorry. I'm just so nervous because I kind of love him and I really want you to love him too. I died. I just thought that was just like such a perfect like example of how yummy she is. She can't help but be herself and be so honest and not in a way that's forceful. Like you just know that that's who she is, which was so funny. And then I did love the part where he was like, we haven't had oral sex.
After everything he messes up, he's like, all right, I will just be back in 1 minute. Like that just becomes like part of the joke at everything. And I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that.
Also a cosmic moment for the podcast. We did not know this when we picked this movie, but last week, all this stuff started popping into my feed that Rachel McAdams just got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And Domhnall was the one who presented it to her and gave this beautiful speech about how wonderful she is. Of all the people that she has been in films with, she's been in so many movies that this is the person who is presenting it to her. And just the speech was so sweet, as sweet as this movie is.
Yeah. Like he was so charming and funny in it. And he was basically telling Rachel what we all think. And he was like, you are so annoyingly perfect.
I'm not at all surprised because I feel like after the two of them were in this movie, there was probably this element of like, can we just have this fake family together and have a daughter named Posey? Like, I don't know how they left this film being like, not in the way of like, oh my God, we're actually so deeply in love, but they're like, can we just live this life in our beautiful London house together? And
I know.
And have our family in Cornwall and like not see the other crazy family.
I really don't know how some actors do it. You're just like, aren't you guys in love?
You fooled me. Going back to what you said, Michelle, earlier about the time travel aspect, I think it was very original. When you were saying you were having anxiety that something was going to happen, I think that we've seen movies that like people go back in time and they kind of have the same approach and there's no originality. And the fact that like bad things that happened, which, you know, directly related to Kit Kat and then his dad getting sick. They didn't feel like really intense, all is lost moments. They were more so morphed into, again, kind of like that flow of life. And these are things that do happen. Like we do experience these bad things, but it wasn't like he went back in time and then he messed everything up and then he couldn't get back to Mary and he couldn't get back to his kids, and like there was some cliff note in something that his dad had said and he messed it up. Like I know they brought up the part about the baby, and which I thought like they brought like comedy into it, that he ends up having this son and he's like, oh no, I want my daughter back. It just felt like, again, like I was watching videos of someone's life. I didn't feel like any of the supporting characters, especially the family members, you know, Harry, who he lives with, like none of them existed so that Tim and Mary could exist. Like they actually had
their own
these personalities that were so funny and so human, and like had all these idiosyncrasies. The first time that we meet his uncle,
one of my favorite characters.
I'm like, how do I adopt his uncle? Uncle Dave?
Desmond.
In his suits? I'm
gorgeous.
Like, I am taking so many notes about how to dress every day. They're not like actually real people because they're characters, but like the way that they're written, and again, a testament to all the actors who play those roles, but it didn't feel like this like, oh, well, you gotta go get Mary or else you're gonna lose her, or, oh, don't go in the closet. Like, it didn't do anything to further the plot. It only, like, added to Tim's life and showed, like, how full it was and showed all of these people who are genuinely a part of their day-to-day. And I just feel like sometimes it's really hard to pull off in a movie. So, bravo. I was very impressed.
I crave more stories that are like this, especially in being someone who's trying to learn to write things like this. There's so much advice that says we have to follow these certain parameters and you have to bring in the tension has to be like, 200%. And I'm the type of person who enjoys stories like this. Not that there wasn't tension and that there wasn't drama, but Laura, I love how you identified that all of these supporting characters were just people that were in Tim's world. And yes, they had their own little stories, but they weren't used only for exposition or only to move the plot along. And I fully enjoyed it. Like, I didn't feel like I was missing any of them doing something that was so dramatic that was going to, mess things up. Because I feel like that's just kind of what life is. Like we have enough stuff coming at us that happens naturally. Like we don't need to create extra drama on top of that.
Yeah, I felt like it was very refreshing to watch a film where you're sort of in the beginning, like you were saying earlier, Michelle, where you're kind of at the edge of your seat being like, I am too anxious. I don't know what's going to happen. It was really refreshing to watch a film where there wasn't really any unnecessary drama or something that was like unnecessarily traumatic. Obviously there were very sad moments, the dad dies, but like it didn't seem like it was coming out of nowhere, and that to me made the experience just like so much more enjoyable because it did really feel like life. The supporting characters, like you were saying, Laura, they had their own story that we were genuinely interested in. I loved Kit Kat. Like, I was obsessed with her. I loved how flawed she was, but like not in a way that it was like, oh, because she said something. She was like, oh, I'm the fallen child or something like that. And that absolutely broke my heart. But I loved how we didn't use her as like a crutch in terms of like, yes, you need the character that's an absolute screw up, because then we see Kit Kat do really well. Like, she is just an example of like a full person where there are seasons of your life where you're not at your best because you're trying to figure it out. I thought that she was just like so dynamic, especially for being a supporting character. As much as I was rooting, obviously, for the leads, I was rooting for Kit Kat the entire time. I thought she was just absolutely delicious.
In another way, they really used it to get that almost lesson or point across.
Exactly.
Of like, you worry about all these things in life that you think are going to happen, and the things that you will never think of because your brain doesn't have capacity to just think through all these scenarios. Those are the things that happen. So it makes you just always remember that. I love that life lesson. I try my best to like use that as someone who's an absolute serial overthinker. It's in one of my favorite movies, Worst Person in the World. Like they have kind of this whole section about that. So I like love when films try and incorporate it because it's such a human thing. Like of course we're going to worry. Of course we don't want bad things to happen to our loved ones, but like unfortunately bad things will happen to them. That's life. But
Yeah.
like you kind of need to find ways to appreciate the moments and not, you know, worry it to death because usually what you're worrying about is not actually going to happen.
We see him go through the whole montage of trying to help fix Kit Kat and get her on the right path. As much as you desperately want to help and fix your loved ones, coming from such a genuine place of love, at the end of the day, like those are life lessons you can't teach someone. They have to stumble through it on their own so they learn on their own. And we see Kit Kat do that. And then she starts building such a beautiful life for herself. She just has to stumble through it. And I think that that was so beautifully, beautifully done.
There's this, I'm sure it's like written in so many different ways, but it's like about when friends or loved ones or whomever are like going through difficult times, like instead of like trying to dig them out of the hole, like just go down in there and sit with them and like don't try to fix or get them out. And then eventually like you usually will walk out together or one will walk out when they're, that analogy made me think of like when they go to the hospital with her and they just sit and they just stay by her side and they're not reprimanding her for anything. And they let her actually say, I need to break up with my boyfriend. I need to stop drinking. What I would hate is like them going and be like, you got to stop. You're ruining the family. Like there's just so much love and compassion and
so much unconditional love.
Like, very stemmed from the parents' characters in this movie. Like they set that tone so early on of like how close they are and how beautiful the little things of like how they approach their time together, that they do a good job of demonstrating that in the characters throughout the movie.
The way that they treated Kit Kat's character was so respectful because they allowed her to be this incredibly unique person, and we learn that from the first scene that she is in, but they don't turn her into a caricature and they don't use her to serve their love story or for her to be someone who like messes up something in their life or Tim and Mary's relationship, but instead they take her struggle, her personal struggle, and they like let that be its own thing within this movie that's like labeled as a romantic comedy. And this is one of these big shiny parts of the movie where we're seeing and we're realizing as viewers like, okay, this is a love story, but this is what real love is. It's not just romantic love. Like love is being with someone when they're going through a hard time, and like this is how you do it. Everyone take notes.
I just had a thought of like, I think that in every school district they should require to have like a life lessons class, and they should pick movies and books that connect back of like how you can be a better person and like show up better for society and your family. And I think I would add this to the mix.
1,000%. But I'm so curious what you guys would say, because obviously after watching the film, I'm like, okay, so if I had this ability, would you use it? And Kat and I were getting into this debate. And before we watched the film, I was like, yeah, obviously I'm using it. Afterwards, I'm like, I don't know. Because like the situation with Kit Kat, I think I would be like, yeah, well, obviously, let me just rewind this so my sister doesn't get into a car accident. But I don't know. What would you guys do?
I don't know. I honestly, you know what I think I would want to do? I think I would want to use it to relive moments that were like my favorite times in life. But it would have to be like, I can't change anything of how I acted in that time. It would just simply be to like experience it one time over. And maybe kind of like the lesson that they say at the end of like reliving it so that I'm not changing my behavior, but my perspective change.
Yeah.
So that I hopefully, and then like carrying that continuously into my life with like a different lens. So
Yeah.
it won't alter anything. If anything, it will make me more aware. Was thinking about that recently because I was going through like old boxes in my parents' room of like middle school and high school, and like I feel like I had so many like insecurities and things like growing up that like are still carried with you into adulthood. And I was like, oh, I probably would have not done this or not done this or not done this, and like if I could go back I would have changed those things. But then I think about all of those things happening led me to where I am right now, and if that
Mhm.
was the path to need to get me here, then I wouldn't change a thing.
I feel like I have to steal yours, Laura. If I knew that there was a chance that I could alter something, I think my
Mhm.
answer would be no, I'm never going to use it.
Yeah.
But I'm such a nostalgic person. I'm constantly going back and looking at my photo roll, old photos, especially I'll often think, okay, what were we doing at this time last year? What were we doing at this time 5 years
Mm.
ago? And if I'm with loved ones, we'll start reminiscing and talking about happy memories, mostly happy memories. And I do think it would be fun in having those conversations to be able to transport back to that, but almost to just put yourself in the scene, almost just like what, watching a home movie that you can
Yeah.
be an observer, but not be a participant because with every day we're learning and we're growing. And I think ultimately, as much as all of humans have these fantasies about, "Oh, if I knew what I knew now, I could go back and do that so much better, or I would do
Yeah.
this one little thing differently." I think that most of that is pretty self-serving. It's not really like for the good of humanity.
Yeah.
So I would want to make sure that that was not an option because I do
Yeah.
think that I would be too flawed to like not accidentally use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we started doing this thing more formally that we're having what we call the question for the table, which is like instead of like the appetizer or whatever you split. So I feel like our good question for the table would be the question that we posed. If you had the opportunity to go back in time, would you do it?
So
This is our question for the table. Ask your family, ask your friends, or tell
yes,
us. Would you
ask
go
a
back?
stranger.
Yeah,
Ask a
ask
stranger.
a
I know.
stranger. Make a
Yeah.
new friend.
Oh
Yeah.
my
It's not a
goodness.
weird thing to just ask someone
Yeah.
randomly that you don't
You're
know.
like, crazy thing. I built a time machine. Would you use it?
I feel like they did it so eloquently to include him going back in time towards the end, like to spend a little bit more time with his dad. This is too much. I was not prepared.
No, like not at
And
all. When
they should have like a warning that comes up.
yeah, like you may pass away watching this scene.
He didn't change anything. He just
Yeah.
would say this thing like that made his dad realize like how much he appreciated it. And he like because they both time travel, like he knows, he's like, oh, we're there, right? Like I'm sick, and he kind of has this
Yeah.
moment. And I do think about our grandpa because he lived with us literally most of my adolescence. Like he moved in when I was in first grade, and then he passed away like when I was a senior in high school. So like that's such a big chunk of life. And definitely do this in adulthood. I think especially like as your parents get older and you're like they're getting older, like make sure you're present, make sure you're like enjoying
Yeah.
your time with them. But growing up with my grandpa, my mom would always be like, not in a morbid way, not in a guilt way. She would just remind me, like, just remember, like, one day he's not going to be here. He's in
Mm.
his 90s. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy this time with him. And he had his little spot in like our back porch room, and he would like just kind of sit like a little cat and just like sit under the
Oh.
sun and just like chill there. And we would like go out and play cards with him. So I feel like I would love to just go back in time and like play a hand of cards with him and just listen to him talk and
Mm.
not do anything and just like hold his hand. Cause like I feel like
Mm.
that would not like alter reality all, but like
Yeah.
it's like being present with the people that are going to be gone.
As much as we're all tearing up and at the end of this movie is so emotional. I don't know. For me, Britt doesn't know this, but I'm like pretty. If you tell me something is sad, I'm like, well, I don't want to watch it then because I don't even
Totally.
want to put myself through that. But I feel like because this was a British movie, there's something about just the British way that feels very in line with like who I am and the way I like to process my emotions. So I think
Mhm.
it was almost like I was sad, but I'm like the way that they shared, even that the dad shared that he was sick. I love that they were able to be both so matter of fact, keep calm and carry on, very everything's going to be okay, but then also having this real, true emotion and connection and love. British people are generally known for being a little bit more cold. So maybe
Yeah.
it made it even more special
Mhm.
that when he went back that second time, he's like, I wanted to give him like a kiss on the cheek. The whole way that it was presented was like exactly in the style that I want to experience a very sad but beautiful moment.
A moment that really hit me was when the father passed, and then you're sort of going through a montage of the next couple of years. Tim says, he's like narrating this, and he's like, and life goes on, and eventually, we're able to like enjoy life. And I think I know that life continues after, something like that happens. But like, it was really hard for me to accept that. I'm like, oh, that I would really, really struggle, especially having someone who is such a pillar in your life. And there is like a guilt, I would assume, that would come up for the moment that you're able to start slightly enjoying life without them there. There must be some form of, wait, I can't be enjoying life. Even though ultimately you know that that person, that's all that they want. They're like, yeah, like I was here for the time that I was and I loved it. And now I want you to live your life because now you have a whole nother chapter. Like they have their family that they're building. And there's something so beautiful and so heartbreaking in that moment. That's why, you really should try to appreciate those simple moments in life, because I feel like, it's so easy to celebrate like really extraordinary, big, monumental moments. But this movie is all about like loving those small moments.
I know, and Britt, that just made me think of, this movie, their biggest like life events are like, I feel like what our generation thinks of as like engagements, weddings, babies. And I feel like
Yeah.
all of those moments felt very kind of like Michelle said, like casual but emotional. Like
Yeah.
she said very clearly, like, I don't really want a big engagement. And I actually love that part because he like has the band set up and they have this
Yeah.
wedding which is so beautiful and so vibrant and so special. They love each other, they're having a baby, but like they were like, let's just have this wedding. They treated those as important as the small moments in their life. Like they were
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
these are wonderful moments that we're going to realize forever, but they're not making a production or a show. It's just like
Mhm.
part of their overall life and love story.
I tend to be annoyed if something is marketed as one way and ends up being, the movie unfolds in a completely different way. This is the first time that the opposite happens, that I went
Mhm.
in thinking that this is just going to be a regular romantic comedy and just being so pleasantly surprised by. I know we've talked so much about like all the other love aspects of this, but the love story itself was also just so ordinary and not
Yeah.
dramatic, and
Mhm.
even the little tiny dramatic parts I felt like were just handled so smoothly. And this again just speaks to, I think, why Rachel McAdams was like so perfectly cast in this, because I feel like that is her whole vibe.
Yeah.
Who
Mhm.
she is what this love
Yeah.
story was.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
the children, I almost needed to leave the room. I was like, when he is like running down the street with his daughter when she's 3 years old, and he's like treating like, they're in the Olympics, and we just keep seeing their family grow, and then seeing them at the end at the breakfast table, and he's cooking for them and feeding his child with an airplane. I was like, this is how you show family.
So cute. And I also love the scene and Rachel's like, I feel like we need, what was the word that she used? She was like, we need an insurance baby. And he was like, what? And she was like, well, like, what if one of our kids super smart and the other one's so dumb. We don't want that one to feel bad. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll think about it. And she goes, okay, great. And then she goes, so what about now? What do you think now? Their banter with one another, it just felt so human and so real. That moment between the two of them was so funny. Like, I just was like, that is so silly. I love that. But then we like later realize why he's sort of hesitating, which obviously rips your heart out. It's also nice to watch a love story that's like a healthy love story. Sometimes like it's just nice to be like, oh yay, I trust you too. I know no one's gonna like cheat. I know no one's like doing anything crazy behind the scenes. I'm like, oh, these are two people, love each other, respect. Okay, that's the starting point.
Such a good flow going between them.
Well, first I want to say something about the scene where they're talking about having their third kid. I love this combination of having this scene that was so light and silly, but also having it be this really huge turning point and big decision that he has to make. And having both of those things exist, I felt like that I was able to feel both of those feelings at the same time and be able to handle it.
We see them so humanly just like sitting outside and like having a cup of tea together in this beautiful light, and like the way that they included all of the set designs in this movie, it really did feel like I was like in their house. Even in the first apartment that they live in, like she's cleaning up before her parents get there and she's taking wine glasses off, and like he has toast in his hand and there's clothes on the floor, and it just like it really brought the entire point of the movie home of like life is not this like perfect cookie cutter set. Like it reflected the life that they all kind of like brought into each other's lives, and like all of the things like his dad's office, you know, they really make a point to like bring up how much his dad like loves reading, and he even says like, oh, you know, what have you done with all this time? He's like, I've gone back and just like reread books. And I thought that was so sweet.
What a simple thing. Like, what a simple thing to enjoy. You know,
he ends up with Mary, who like, you know, literally reads books for a living. So, but like his, you know, he has all these books in his office. So I just feel like they do a good job, especially with that scene of like putting them in the exact environment of like where you would picture them having that conversation. Just this sweet, quiet moment of them together after his dad passed away while the kids are asleep.
We've been talking so much about how great their relationship is and how it was pretty free of any conflict. But I love how they handled this one tiny thing that could have made the House of Cards come down. And that was his interaction with Charlotte, who is Margot Robbie's character. When he first sees her in the theater, and I think it goes back in time twice to try to connect with her and like seem really cool, and it doesn't really work. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to let this go.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, you know, I think that any person would do exactly what he did. We know that Tim is a good guy. He's not going to do anything to mess us up. But to have someone who is like the person who you've been like pining after and it didn't work out, like if you have the opportunity to like step up to the line, I think that most people would at least do what he did.
Yeah.
But then I loved that when that third opportunity comes around that he does, we'll get dinner. Like, it's fine. This will be fine. And I felt like I had full confidence in him up to her door that he was not going to blow this.
Yeah.
I trusted him.
I totally trusted him.
I trusted him. I mean, back to what you were saying, Michelle, I will say that when he goes back in time, I was howling because he was like, oh, of course, that makes perfect sense. You're a lesbian. Like, this is your girlfriend. And she's like, I'm not a lesbian. This is my girlfriend. And he goes, right. I'm going to go see my boyfriend. And then he does it again. And he was like, you guys should really be careful the way you say girlfriend because sometimes people would think you're gay. And then the girl's like, I am gay.
He just cannot get it right. When it comes to Charlotte, this is kind of like the second instance we see because the first time he goes back involving her when he's, you know, trying to hook up with her and he follows her advice and it's still it doesn't work, even though he does
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
she says. So
Don't
it's
work.
just not meant to be between the two of them.
Exactly.
I also
Exactly.
love Rory as part of that scene. Rory is I just want a story. I want the spin-off story of Rory and Harry like moving in together as roommates.
Oh, that would be like a perfect odd couple, like a modern day
There's
odd couple. Yeah.
there's a part which I feel like I have so many favorite scenes, so I can say this here, but like when it's Posy's birthday and they go over and he's like, "Oh, you're supposed to," or he's like, "You're supposed to get a gift that's bigger than the child's," and then like Harry just has this really tiny bear and he's like, "I hate children," and it's just like such a good reflection of their personalities. But yeah, Michelle, I agree. Like, I think if you took the Charlotte storyline out of it, the movie probably would have been fine. But like that storyline, very much like they could have easily like had him at least hook up with her, like go into the room and be like, "Oh wait, what am I doing? Now I have to go propose to my wife," or like, or you know, he hooks up with her and then it messes up the whole trajectory. And like they just decided not to do that. It was almost like you may have run-ins with people from your past, but like if it doesn't work, there's a reason. And literally love and the things that happen in our life, everything is about timing. It is like we don't always have control over these things. Like they're going to happen the way that they are. But in this case, it's ironic because he does have somewhat control over time, but I feel like he realized there's some greater force that be that, you know, he's supposed to do with Mary.
I'm going to sneak in one more thing that I love before we jump to the next section.
Please.
I think it's just establishing what a good human Tim is, even though he's coming off of this amazing first meet with Mary after they go on the date in the blind date restaurant, and he gets her number, that he gets home and Harry, who's the worst person in the world, has had this terrible night. And he is willing to, maybe he doesn't know like how, you know, how much he's throwing away, but essentially throw away this wonderful thing that just happened to him just so that he can help someone else, even though that someone else isn't even a great person.
And I love that Mr. Dursley from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like a very famous actor, and apparently this was his last movie before he passed away, which is so sad. But he, but I love that interaction that they have.
They really dedicated a lot of time to the play.
I know.
They did.
Yeah. There were some like longer sections that I was like, oh wow, this is like a, you know, even the part where, you know, she kind of tries on all the dresses before she goes to dinner. But like they were all such a joy. Like they all could have been short films that I would have loved to watch, or just like clips of things happening throughout his life. Britt, was there anything you didn't like about this movie?
Yes. Well, one of the things was the rain. I wrote that down immediately. I was like, what the fuck? But Domhnall Gleeson is such a fantastic actor. I will say in the beginning, it was driving me a little nuts how desperate he was coming across, but very short-lived. I was like, brother, calm down, please. Some of his lines were very borderline creepy, and I was like, yeah, I don't love this. There were definitely some instances in the beginning when he was going back in time. I was like, slow down. Okay, slow down. Stop doing that.
Like, you wouldn't know unless it was in this situation, like if it was another actor, but I feel like because he does such a good job, he does not come off as creepy. But all of these actions, if I probably were to read some of it on paper, I'd be like, okay, he's stalking this woman. And he's also like kind of manipulating her because he doesn't, you know, tell her this, but like I wouldn't change anything because I just felt like it really worked. This is probably me coming off like I sound really prude, but I don't mean it in this way. Some of the scenes where Rachel McAdams kind of doing like the strip tease and like there's kind of like the bra sections, like some of that I'm like, oh, it's kind of weird sometimes if it's like being directed by a man. But I did my due diligence. I like did research if she had said anything. And like, she's even had outspoken comments of like, it's actually not, I don't fully disagree with like nudity in films and all this stuff. Not that there was like full on nudity, but I feel like sometimes it could work in that way that it could come off as like cheap or like part of a film that actors feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really like add so much. But the more that I thought about it, I feel like there was this aspect of like their relationship that was really physical. And there was like, there were probably these elements like in real life that maybe they would have like been interacting that way or done that made it a little bit more like cheeky.
I also think that they kept it true to her character and their relationship. It was very playful. It didn't feel
Yeah.
like
Sleazy.
exhibitionist
Yeah.
or like sleazy or yeah. And no, other than what you said already, he was a little creepy, but I kept trying to say like, yeah, but they're meant to be together, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also like he's like, so cute and so I'm into his whole vibe. Yeah, I think my only other complaint is because of the nature of this story and because of how much we love this world. I wish that this could have been a series just so we could spend more time with them.
Michelle, I fear you're onto something. You need to pitch that.
Well, Brittany, on this podcast, we have an idea jar that Michelle and I don't actually. We're gonna have to like go through all of our archives and just look up idea jar as a keyword. But like every episode, we're like, all right, we have to write that. Not too many things that we didn't like about this movie, but we've kind of already went through so many moments that we love. But if you each had to pick your favorite scene and if you have any other favorite quotes, Michelle.
All right, my favorite scene was the tube scene, which is kind of like the fun and games section. It was all, just with a song underneath it. But I felt like because this was me watching it for the first time, I loved it on its own as I was watching it, but then appreciated it even more once the movie was over because it was really just showing their everyday life and the progression of their relationship. But it really didn't, they were wearing different outfits, going different places, and little things changed each day. But for the most part, it was the same. And it also brought me back to when my husband and I were first kind of in the early years of our marriage / the beginning of our relationship. There was like probably less than a year that we were commuting into New York City together. And every time we're in Grand Central, I just get this, like, my heart like grows and I'm like, getting nostalgic about a special year that we got to spend together, just living everyday life.
So I love that song. It's such a beautiful
I can't
song.
remember what it is now. Can you remind us in the audience?
It's Ellie Goulding, and I used to listen to that song all the time, but I don't know if she does like a cover of that. It might be an original song, so you need to fact check me on that. But I just love that they include the band in it, and it's just this
I love that
beautiful way that it comes together, that it's almost like they feel like every day feels like this grand show. Not that they're like pretending to be something, but in this way of like, it feels really special and something to celebrate. Michelle, I know that was your favorite scene, but did you have any favorite lines?
Right after the wedding, and Tim says, "Do you wish that we picked another less wet day?" And I think he's kind of in that question asking wondering if he should go back and try to do something. And Mary says, "No, not for the world." And Tim says, "And so it begins, lots and lots of types of days." I want to like hug the writer of this movie.
I know.
That's just so beautiful.
Britt, what about you?
Oh, one of my favorite scenes is like towards the end when Tim is dropping off his daughter and then he's like waving at her like this, and then she walks to the class, and then she walks back out to wave at him again. I was just like, I was just like, he's the best dad. I was like, oh, he's the best son, he's the best dad, he's the best husband. Like,
brother.
Like brother. Oh,
I know.
so that was one of my favorite scenes. I also really enjoyed the scene where she's trying on all the different dresses. I know it's like very stereotypical, but it's quite relatable, where she's like, "What do you think about this?" And he's like, "I love it." And she's like, "Are you kidding? My boobs are spilling out of this." This movie has one of my favorite lines in any movie. It's like one of my like top 10 favorite lines, which is when the mom goes, "I'm so uninterested in a life without your father." I think it really encapsulates not only her relationship with her husband, but like that entire family and how they feel towards one another and like that unconditional love. And I mean, I think that if that question was going to be asked to Tim, he would have said the same thing. Same with Mary. Like, it's just I think it's such a beautiful way to describe how much somebody means to you. I mean, rips my heart out. Oh, I just love it.
Laura, how about you?
Yeah. What about you, Laura?
It's more of a section and kind of what we talked about at the part where he's talking about the big lessons that his dad said. And I think the part that I love the most of that entire sequence is when they kind of leave you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but then they go right into it. And he says, like, do you want to kind of know the big secret? Like, do you want me to tell you? And he's like, oh, not another one. He's like, all right, just tell me. And then they like go silent and they pan out and you're just like watching the two of them have this beautiful conversation in their gorgeous Cornwall house that I need to move into. And then he tells you these lessons and he demonstrates them. I just cannot think of any other better execution than the decision that they made to show that, because a part of it is like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He's supposed to like go back so every day he like, you know, can relearn and reappreciate. But then he teaches himself that he doesn't need to. I really got emotional when he says like, living the same day but with noticing. And then I really love this all-encompassing, which I had said earlier, but he has this line. There's a song by Baz Luhrmann called Sunscreen.
Yeah.
And then he says, worrying about the future is as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubble gum. The real troubles in your life will always be the things that never crossed your worried mind. And I think this movie overall just does a really good job of incorporating. The score is really beautiful that they use throughout between like all the tender moments between the two of them, but like all the song choices that they make are very like intentional. And I love that he like decided to use a quote. My favorite quote unquote line or section, usually I get so annoyed by movies that are narrated, but the way that this movie is narrated, it feels like I'm reading a book that I don't want to put down. And I just want to keep like flipping through the language. And I think the opening, when he's describing the entire description of the days and like the things that he loves the most about spending time with his family, and he says like, you know, this night is when we watch movies no matter what the weather is. And when they're sitting by the beach and he's describing Kit Kat, and it's just this like gorgeous portrayal of this family. It's very, very much a film family because it's almost too perfect.
But they're doing such ordinary things. The thing that's extraordinary about it is how much this family loves spending time together.
Yeah, and how aware they are of like how grateful they are and how appreciative they are, because for the most of the movie, like they really just don't take those moments for granted. They seem perfect in those montages, but then as we experience throughout the film, like they're not perfect people. The only thing that makes them just these remarkable people is that like they really showcase unconditional love for one another, and that's something that is just so magical and so beautiful, which just makes you just fall in love with this family over and over and over again.
One last thing that I do need to bring up, because we haven't talked about this scene yet, the decision that his dad makes when they kind of have their last moment together, that he decides to go back to a moment where it won't mess up the trajectory of life, but they just go to the beach together and they're like running.
Are you kidding me?
He's a little kid, and that probably was like such an ordinary day, you know, like in his mind. But like to be able to like, I'm, you know, none of us have children, but like if I could imagine what just like a perfect moment of like quietness and playfulness would be, that like just boils it down to one moment. And I just thought it was, as a filmmaker, as a writer, that was such like a well thought out decision, because it's so beautiful. It's like showing this vast ocean, this empty beach, of like incorporating their memories of like time and place and like him growing up and wanting to just like freeze frame this moment. And the fact that that's the one time that they got to travel back together was so beautiful and so intentional. And I'm so happy they like left us with that.
Yeah, I mean, that
Oh my
one
gosh.
ripped my heart out. I was unwell.
I know. I was like, how many more times am I gonna cry?
It was like a type of cry where I was like, oh, like you're trying so hard not to make noise, but I couldn't.
I think we've entered the food portion of our podcast, which is very exciting.
Okay.
So what did this film make you want to eat, drink, or just food moments that you realized?
Overall, because I feel like we got a few instances of this movie just made me want to have a cup of milky tea, like
Yes.
like a good, just like an English breakfast or an Earl Grey with milk in it and some kind of scone. There was a scene where they mentioned blueberry muffins. It's when he intercepted Mary's date. There was also a cupcake in that scene. And then I wrote down quite a list. Do you want me to go through the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Please.
Okay. All right. We have strawberry mousse.
It was during their dinner date, like in the dark, because they're like, oh, what is that? And he like tries to feed her. He gets it in her eye, which is really cute.
Laura, I thought that you would love this line. Someone suggests that they get a popcorn, share a Coke, and snuggle. Do you remember that line?
No, but that's my dream.
And I can't remember even who said it, but I was like, oh, this is like Laura's fantasy.
I actually do have, sorry, I'm deviating, but I talk a lot on this podcast about my movie order, what I get every week when we go, my latest movie journey. So usually, Brittany, I get a Coke and a popcorn. And the movie theater that we go to now, they give out free popcorn on Wednesdays to members, but they do not have Coke in their machines. So they have Dr. Pepper and and their Pepsi sucks. It's like super watered down. So I've been in a little bit of a dilemma when I go. So I have been getting Dr. Pepper, which is fine. But we got to the movie late the other night. And there was like, there's never a line, but there was like a line wrapped around the door. I think a group came in all at once, like they must go to a college or something nearby. And they were like seeing this movie as a class. And we were late. So like the movie was going to start. So I was like, oh, fuck, okay, whatever. It was a 3-hour movie. So I was like, I'll get up like after it starts and I'll go get it. So I was like, okay, I'll wait an hour into the movie starting. So I go out. They already cleaned up the popcorn. Done. And I went to like go get a candy and they're like, no, sorry, we're closed. I was like,
they closed?
I was like, listen, I will not name the theater because I love them and I support them. It was a fabulous movie, so it was fine, but I needed my snack for a 3-hour movie. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
All right. We have the 2-hour hot dog that Joanna makes at her party, which we also didn't mention. Vanessa Kirby, fabulous in this.
Love Vanessa Kirby.
Yeah, eating an eclair at the end. I loved that. I kind of took that as, you know, we saw everyone kind of just like living their happy lives, and hers was eating an eclair, which checks out. Champagne theory, our theory that champagne appears in every film ever made, checks out for this movie. I got a little nervous because I didn't see any at the New Year's Eve party at the beginning. And I'm like, all right, this is good. We're going to go back. I can reassess the scene. I didn't see it the second time either, but they had it at the wedding. So we're safe.
I'm sure people were drinking at the New Year's Eve party.
Yeah, that's crazy. Champagne, like,
the girl that plays Polly, by the way, the girl that he kisses.
I loved that scene, by the way.
I love that scene where he's like, Happy New Year, and he shakes her hand. I was like, that seems like, but she's in Fleabag as well.
I loved when they did kiss, and she goes,
me too.
Thank you, Tim. And he's like, you're welcome.
And we have no idea really who she is, but
I know.
That was a good kiss. Purple cupcakes at Posey's birthday party for Aunt Kit Kat. I think that's my whole list. But yeah, pretty much just tea and scones.
Yeah. And I more so wanted to point out that I loved the family's like tablescape at their dinner, that they like announce their engagement and that they're pregnant at. And they have beautiful candles and everything's like so classy, and they just do a good job. I didn't pay attention at all what they were eating like at the wedding. But I know that Harry was at some picking station, but I was too distracted by him verbally assaulting the woman with the hat on. So. Well, for our dinner party, we have there's a lot of settings in this movie, so I feel like we have a lot of options. Brittany, do you want to pick? We usually pick not a scene, but like a setting from the movie of like where we would want to host a dinner party, and then we'll kind of assign each other people and decide what they would bring to the table.
The first thing that came to mind is honestly their beach house.
Just like the house in Cornwall.
The house in Cornwall, maybe doing it outside in their backyard, like twinkle lights.
Can we go right now?
I know. Like have like maybe their like doors open so you can go in and out of the house and like the fireplace is on. But it's the summer because I hate the cold.
Yeah. Okay. So Michelle, I'll give you someone. Michelle, you give Brittany someone, and Brittany, you give me someone, and then we'll all go around and say what we think they would bring. So Michelle, I'm gonna give you Harry because you can't have a dinner party without a grumpy playwright.
And I will give Britt Uncle Desmond, because what party could exist without him?
I need to be at this party right now.
Laura, Kit Kat.
Oh, yes. Oh, what a crowd.
Michelle, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Okay, so I think Harry seems like he has so much passion. Whatever he makes, it's going to involve a lot of like chopping or like stabbing, just like a lot of like knife work. So maybe like a chopped salad. One that's where the lettuce is chopped very finely. Like I'm imagining him going over a scene in his head and chopping at the same time, and just like he will not stop until he's gotten his thought complete.
Yes.
I love
so
that.
Very finely chopped lettuce and chickpeas and tomatoes and carrots and cucumbers. It seems like he's like such a severe person, but then he's very proud that he has his own special Dijon mustard vinaigrette. You know, like a lot of the influencers have like the thing now is like they have their little jars that they mix salad dressing in. Like he's in his kitchen with his little jar, and then when he shows up at the party, he has to make sure that he shakes it the proper amount before dressing and tossing the salad. And I think along with it, my initial thought that he was going to bring some kind of meat, but now I'm thinking that he would bring little mini grilled cheeses because he knows that this is going to be a party. But I think they call them toasties in the UK.
Okay. Yeah.
So a platter of toasties,
yeah,
you know, cut into triangles. I feel like he's both like so angry, but also would take this assignment very seriously. Would want to make sure that people are eating something that they would enjoy. And these are the two things he's proud of.
How toasties are like something that his mom would make him after school, but he's like angry about it because there's some like subliminal thing that he's trying to work through, but he like loves them so much, so he just like continues to incorporate them into all parties that he goes to. He like brings them on the train to Cornwall. All right, Brittany, what do you think Uncle D is bringing?
D. Well, Uncle D, he just seems like such like an elegant man. So I feel like he'd bring maybe the dessert. First, I think he'd probably bring like the most delicious and expensive either champagne or wine. And everyone's like, Uncle D knows wine. So we can always trust that. And then maybe like some really complicated dessert, and he would present it in a way that like, oh yeah, no, like I just threw this together, and it's like, I don't know, complicated. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe creme brulee is really hard.
Yes.
And like, or like some sort of like souffle, and everyone's like, wow, Uncle D, this is so difficult. And he's like, no, it literally just took me 8 hours, and I'm so happy to be here. And we're all just like,
he brings like the torch.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, and let me like hand it out to everyone," and he like torches it up.
These were wonderful, thoughtful decisions, Brittany, because like he already is the suit.
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing him showing up with this beautiful like platter of creme brulees and like very cold champagne and like giving someone a history lesson on
Yes.
where, you know, the regions that the wine is from and like how he's like has studied all these wine books.
Yeah, but he's not like, he doesn't like shove it down your throat, but also we all know that he baked all of that in the suit. Like all he
Yes.
did was
Yeah.
he put on the apron and he was ready.
I love this dessert choice because he seems like someone who owns like a ramekin collection. Like he has a
Yes.
whole cabinet full of them ready to go for just an occasion like this.
Yeah.
Okay, Kit Kat, you know, we love her and we respect that she's going through it, but she's definitely a little bit of a hot mess.
Yeah.
And they, you know, have indicated, like, even at the end, they're like, she's a baby, but like,
No one knows how it's
she's
alive.
really unsafe. So I could see her, like, she went through the process of, like, trying to cook something,
Yes.
but it unfortunately burned.
Yeah.
So she was like, I can bring this, but I kind of just want to like go to the store and like get something that's store bought. So like I honestly could see her bringing like her favorite chocolate bars or like biscuits. I imagine that Cornwall has like a beautiful market nearby, so she kind of just like picks up what is around the corner from their house, and like she knows the shopkeeper, so they can like kind of like guide her in the right direction.
Yeah.
But originally I was thinking like if she did try and like bake something, like there's eggshells in it. There's just like she tried to make like some sort of family recipe that was like a, you know, a fruit pie and like a custard on the side or something. And maybe even like a roast. And she was like, you know what, it's the party will be better off if I don't bring anything. So we're gonna rely on Harry's Toasties to feed us for, you know, this is after her accident, so she's cutting back on her drinking. So I think maybe she'll make just like a nice, like an iced tea, hot tea at the end of the evening with some dessert, but she's gonna make sure that everyone has their tea for the day.
Yeah.
So proud of her.
Our final section of our episodes are this and that. So Michelle and I are just going to ask you a couple rapid fire questions. Brittany, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Pick your living quarters. Would you rather live at Tim's Cornwall home or the London house that Tim and Mary move into, like when they have Posey?
No, Tim's Cornwall home. I fear it would take a long time to heat up, but that's fine. We'll work on that.
You know what? We'll make sure there's a lot of fireplaces and a lot of space heaters for you.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Would you rather go on a date at Dan Le Noir, which is the completely pitch dark place, or a museum and have like a cafeteria lunch date?
The Dan Loire. I've always wanted to have dinner in the dark.
I'm manifesting that the three of us will somehow be in London all at the same time. We'll go to that restaurant. We'll do a part 2 of this episode. Would you rather have the tent capsize while downpouring on your wedding day, or would you rather have your best friend give like an absolutely really embarrassing speech?
My best friend give the worst speech ever.
Yeah. Pick a profession between Tim and Mary's: a lawyer, or I think she's a book editor or
a book reader.
Book reader, yeah.
Oh, I prefer a book reader. I would be the worst lawyer.
Okay, you're going back in time. Would you rather have a chat with your dad in his study, or go to your favorite New Year's Eve party?
Oh, with my pops.
All right, Michelle, over to you.
Would you rather have your parents drop by unannounced to you and your live-in boyfriend they don't know about, or have Uncle Desmond never remember who you are?
Oh, no, my parents. They'd be so silly. They'd be like, what? This is so crazy.
Would you rather have it pour on your wedding day or have your sister marry Jimmy, the nasty boyfriend?
Pour on my wedding day. Oh my God.
Oh, you're a good sister. Okay. We saw them give some terrible speeches, but who would you rather babysit your kids, Jay, Rory, or Harry?
Oh, I actually love Jay. I feel like I know that Jay was like, he's like, ew, keep this baby away from me. I feel like he's just being silly.
Yeah, I feel like he's a good one.
Okay, and last one. Which day would you want to live twice? The day that you met your partner or the day that you decided that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with them?
Oh my god, I don't know. I don't know why I'm leaning towards the day that I met them.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much for joining. Next week, we're going to be ending the first section of our Valentine's Day series with a newer film. So make sure you listen in and make sure you're chatting with your family and friends about our questions for the table. We'll have more next.
Are we sharing what the movie is, or is it going to be a surprise?
It'll be a little bit of a surprise.
Oh,
Live a little.
Ooh,
okay.
I can't wait to tune in.